Welcome back to my garage. Today I am building my chassis table and should be pretty straightforward. Just got to make sure it's all level and square. And before we get to that, I want to give you a quick update on the 46 cab. And so I spent the last month or so picking away at the cab, getting it rust-free. I mean, it was already rust-free from the sandblasting, but now I had to deal with the rust, or lack of rust. I had to deal with the holes and the rot, which there wasn't a lot of, but it had to get fixed anyway. I noticed that there was a lot more cracks in the steel than there was holes in the steel. And I went ahead and, in the floor, there was a lot of cracks around the mounting points near the back on both sides. Dealt with that. Sandblasting revealed a few little holes here, cut it out, while a new piece in there. Along with the rear of the cab along the bottom, pretty normal for these cabs, along with the lower front corner of the cab. Bought new patch panels, welded those in, finished welding all the holes on the firewall, so that's all solid now. And yeah, fuel door gone. So just an update on the cab. It's ready for well, basically body filler and paint. But we're just going to roll that into the corner because we're not dealing with that today. Today we are building our table. I've got all my steel and I bought myself a new tool. So I bought the Evolution chop saw, and the old saw I had, it was just old Makita, real tired. I had a real difficult time cutting through tubing the last time I used it. It's just really worn out. And I've always used blades like this, just a regular cutting wheel. This is new to me, but I bought a steel cutting blade. Well, it comes with the Evolution saw. They come with these blades. And I gotta tell you, they're awesome. I cut a few pieces already with it. It's wild. No dirt. When you cut with a regular chop saw and cutting wheel, when you're done cutting, your clothes stink. You blow your nose, it's just black. There's so much crap in the air from it. This saw, there's none of that. This thing cuts legit, and you'll see it. This thing cuts like 3 times faster than that old thing. And it's just, there's no smell, there's no sparks. It just cuts through it like wood. And it should make this whole process much easier, much cleaner. And I don't trust any kind of squareness or anything that old saw is giving me, because the last time I used it, every cut was off by a little bit. You always had to try and compensate somehow. This should be much better. So I'm gonna wheel this cab out of the way and we're gonna get started on this table. So all I plan on using to build this table is 2x4 by 1/8 wall rectangular tubing, and I'm going to use 2x2 basically as my stringers through the middle. Now, I had called ahead and ordered this steel, and when I got there, it was basically already bundled together for me, loaded on my trailer, brought it home, and I took it all apart and brought it in piece by piece, and I noticed that a couple of the pieces felt heavier than others. So looking down here, you'll see, that definitely 1/8 wall. That is definitely not 1/8 wall. That's like 3/16 wall. So I had 2 pieces in all this that actually have a thicker wall than everything else. Not a big deal, but I'll use those for my 2 long pieces. It's just gonna be a little heavier, that's all. Nothing, doesn't matter. But I could easily get away with just 1/8 wall for everything. It is what it is though. So we'll get this all cut up. I'm gonna miter the ends at this end but I'm leaving that end straight cut, and there's a reason for that. Steel has gone up in price, and after building this chassis table, I'm gonna end up with a lot of steel that I got no purpose for. But I am a man without a trailer. I'm a man without a car trailer. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build this table in such a way where I can easily add on to it and make it a car trailer. So I'm basically building my own float. We'll start with a table. I'm gonna build it a certain way that I can just add on to it and turn it into a trailer. So if you're wondering why this thing is so big, I mean, I don't think I'm far off from the size I should be anyway. But there's a reason why I'm building it the way I'm building is because I'm basically building two things at once. I'm building a chassis table and I'm building a trailer. And it's gonna be the most spot on perfect trailer, I'll tell you that, because this thing has to be perfect to be a chassis table. So yeah, let's get to it, let's get cutting and get some stuff welded together tonight. That's not even hot. It's cold. That's how efficient that saw is. Doesn't waste any time heating up the steel, just cuts through it. Wild. All right, I got my 4 outside pieces cut, my 2 longs and my 2 shorts. I've cut 6 legs and I just did the 2x2 1/8 inch tubing. And what I'm gonna do to make adjustable legs is I'm gonna weld a nut. These are 3/4 inch bolts. You don't have to go this heavy, but I had them, so I'm gonna use them. And I'm gonna weld the nut to the inside, and basically I'm gonna have a second nut in there as a jam nut, and then I have adjustable legs. So I'm gonna weld these up right now so that they're ready to go for assembly. All right, I got my legs all ready. Not the easiest place to get welded into, but I burned her in pretty good. I just want to point out, look how clean these cuts are. There is 0 burrs. Like, that is beautiful cuts. Well worth the money. Okay. We are going to now weld this all together. outer frame done. I've got everything welded in. I'm not a pro welder, but I would say those welds look pretty nice. And I cleaned all the steel. I ended up taking my wire wheel to it last night before I started welding everything, because just from sitting outside for the month that I had the steel before I brought it inside, it was under a tarp, but it still got rusty. You can see I cleaned up this one here, but that stuff there, dirty. All of this was so nasty to work with. So I cleaned it up before I welded it together. And I've cut all my inside braces. So I'm gonna go and weld those in right now. I'm not gonna weld them in solid. I will have to cut them all back out again and lower them down for when I turn this table into a trailer. So I'm gonna weld them in, but not solid. And then I'm gonna weld my legs on, and we'll drop it onto the ground and level it out. And there we have it. All the cross members are welded in, and I've got 6 legs. You may have noticed during the time lapse that I had to cut some of the cross members out. I screwed up. I screwed up. So there was a slight bow to the 2x4 rectangular tubing on each side. They were actually slightly bowed in a bit. And what I should have did, and I kind of did, was I should have did the middle one first, like pushed them out, got the middle one in, and everything else would have went in smoother. I kind of hammered it in, but I didn't weld it in. And then when I started with the first guy, as soon as I moved to the second guy, that one, it fell out. The middle one fell out, and everything kind of popped back in again. And it just started a series of stuff I didn't like. So I ended up having to cut a few out, put that middle one in, and then continue. So if you have a slight bow going on, start with the middle one first. And so I had to trim up a few. I didn't like how tight they were fitting. It was actually pushing out harder than I wanted. So I had to grind the ends off a little bit. We're talking like 1/8 of an inch. But it's done. It's all welded in. Time to drop it on the ground and level it out. I've got a 4-foot level here that I can use, and I also have one of these guys. Basically, it's an digital angle finder. I mean, that's showing it's 2 degrees slanted that way, which is kind of what this bubble's telling me too. Because if I lift on this corner, right, that's when we get more level. So, I mean, I'm probably gonna play with the combination of the two to level the whole table, the whole table, right? Like, you do have to expect a little bit of deflection when you've got a 16-foot span. I don't expect much, but that's why I have the legs in the middle. So basically, I'm gonna level this half and that half. Check it multiple times, and you know, we'll just play with it and we'll see how long it takes to get it perfect. And there we have it. I just went around and tightened up all the jam nuts I had on it so that nothing can move. And I mean, it's as level as you can get as far as I feel. You know, like first time ever building a chassis table, you know, you just got to take your time with it. And I mean, it's level, it's square, and it's big. Yeah, it's big. I know it's big, but we already discussed why. So, I mean, if you're building your own, you don't have to go this big. Just make sure it's a little bit bigger than the frame you're looking to build. But yeah, this should do the job. Now the stressful part of making a chassis, because I've never built a chassis from scratch, so it's definitely going to be new to me. But I think I can figure it out. I might have a little unorthodox way of doing it, just because I kind of wing it as I go, I guess. But next, building the truck. But that's it for today. Later.